So what if I told you there's this legendary book written way back in 1912 that was supposedly suppressed for decades and is whispered to be the secret key used by millionaires and even Silicon Valley titans? In this explainer, we are unlocking the code to Charles Haanel's The Master Key System. The legend around this book is just wild. Rhonda Byrne, the creator of The Secret, she claims that a young Bill Gates found this book at Harvard. And, well, the rest is history. Now, who knows if that's really true, right? But the story itself, it just perfectly captures the mystique of this whole system.
And this book has had a journey. I mean, it started out in 1912 as one of those 24-week courses you'd get in the mail. Then it gets published as a book. But then, around 1933, it just vanishes. The story goes it was actively suppressed. Then, decades later, it pops back up, this time with this huge reputation as a millionaire maker in Silicon Valley. So, what is the secret that's so powerful people wanted to hide it?
Okay, let's get right to the core of it. The secret, if you want to call it that, it all starts with this idea that you are living in two worlds at the exact same time. This right here, this is Haanel's main idea. He basically says we have reality completely backwards. We're always focused on the world without, our job, our bank account, our circumstances. And we see that as the problem. But Haanel says, nope, that's just the effect. The real cause, that's the world within. That's your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs. He puts it so simply in part 1 of the book, the world without is a reflection of the world within. I mean, that's it. That is the fundamental idea. If you want to change what's going on outside, you have to start by changing what's going on inside. But okay, how? How do you actually do that? So how does this whole inner world creating the outer world thing actually work? Well, Haanel uses this really simple but honestly brilliant analogy for how your mind operates. First, you got to get that your mind isn't just one thing. It's got two parts working in parallel. As he lays it all out, you've got the conscious mind, the part you're aware of, and then you have the subconscious mind, which is just humming along under the surface. And the way they work together, it's probably not what you think. Because here's the power dynamic, and this is wild. Your conscious mind, the part that's thinking and worrying and making lists, that's maybe 10% of your mental life. The other 90%, this enormous unseen engine, that's your subconscious. That's where the real power is. And this is where that whole captain and crew idea comes in. Think about it like this. Your conscious mind is the captain of the ship. It stands on the bridge, decides on the destination, and gives the order. That order is then passed down to the subconscious mind, which is the entire crew. And that crew, man, it works 24/7 tirelessly, using all its power to steer the ship and bring that goal into reality. But wait a second. If the subconscious is this giant, powerful crew, where does it get its energy from? What's fueling that engine? This leads us to the next kind of cosmic layer of the system. The key here, and this is from part 2, is that your subconscious mind isn't just locked away inside your head. It's plugged into this vast cosmic intelligence that Haanel calls the universal mind. And he says our mind is part of it. The only difference is one of degree. To make that make sense, let's use a super simple picture. Just imagine for a second that your own individual mind is just a single drop of water. Okay, you got that drop? Now picture the universal mind as the entire massive ocean. See? The drop in the ocean, they're made of the exact same stuff. Chemically, they're identical. They just differ in scale, or as Haanel says, in degree. What that means is your mind is literally made of the same creative substance as the entire universe. All right, I know what you're thinking. This all sounds amazing, very philosophical, but how do we actually use the master key? How do we take this theory and make it real? Let's get practical. In part 7, Haanel breaks it down into 3 really clear steps. First is idealization. You have to form a clear, specific mental plan of exactly what you want. No vague wishes. Next is visualization. You have to see the whole thing finished in your mind's eye. And that leads to the final step, materialization, where that thought, when you hold it consistently, has no choice but to become a physical thing in your world. And let me tell you, that clarity is everything. Haanel really hammers this home. He says, you must see the picture more and more complete, because as you fill in the details in your mind, the ways and means, the how-to,
will just start showing up. The universe needs a clear blueprint from you.
But of course, it's not always that easy, is it? There are roadblocks, and the system has what Haanel calls an arch enemy. He identifies it in part 3 as fear. He says that fear, doubt, any kind of negative or resistant thought, it literally shrinks our creative power. It sabotages the whole process from the inside.
So, as we start to wrap this up, it is so important to understand this isn't just a collection of nice positive thinking tips. The Master Key system is presented as an unchanging, unbreakable law of the universe, just like gravity. The engine driving this whole thing is what Haanel calls the law of attraction, and his definition is so direct. Mind is creative and will automatically correlate with its object and bring it into manifestation. Your mind is a magnet, period. It's going to attract whatever you hold in it consistently.
Look, if you remember one thing from this whole explainer, let it be this. Burn this into your brain. Thought is the cause. Conditions are just the effect. Always. If you want to change the effect, you absolutely have to change the cause. And this last quote, man, this puts all the power and all the responsibility right in our laps. You may freely choose what you think, but the result of your thought is governed by an immutable law. We get total freedom over what we think, but the results, those are fixed. They follow the law.
So, I'll just leave you with this one question, something to really chew on. If your thoughts are truly, genuinely creating your reality, what are you creating right now?